That night was supposed to be ordinary. It started like any other Thursday. I'd just gotten home from work, late as usual, and Christina was already upstairs. I remember thinking how quiet the house was. That kind of silence that creeps in once a routine starts feeling like a performance. I kicked off my shoes by the door, loosened my tie, and dropped my keys into the bowl near the stairs. My phone was dead, so I went upstairs to grab the charger I kept in our bedroom drawer. I didn't even plan on staying up there, but when I walked into the room, the first thing I noticed was her phone, just lying there on the bed, screen still on. Now let me be clear about one thing. I don't go through Christina's phone. That's not who I am. I've always believed that if you have to look through someone's messages, something's already broken. But I also wasn't expecting to see what I did, because I wasn't looking for anything. It was just open. A photo right there in some group chat. Christina was sitting on a man's lap. She was laughing, head tilted slightly back, and there was this look on her face. Not surprise, not awkwardness. She looked at ease, comfortable. His arms were around her waist, hands resting just a little too low. In the background, you could see a long table with wine glasses and half-eaten cake, some kind of streamers or ribbon stuff hanging from the ceiling. At first, I thought maybe it was some throwback, like college or something, but the timestamp said it had been taken just 3 days ago. And right under the photo, someone had written, "When the future bride finally makes the right choice face with tears of joy." I read it twice, then a third time. My heart didn't race. My stomach didn't drop. It was more like everything inside me just paused. Not panic, not even anger yet. Just this cold, creeping sense that something I thought was stable had been chipped from underneath, and I hadn't even noticed. I stood there, still holding my dead phone, just staring at hers. The irony didn't escape me. How often do we catch things we weren't looking for? She came in a few seconds later, carrying a bag of popcorn and a bottle of sparkling water. Casual, like nothing was wrong in the world. She looked at me, then at the phone in my hand. "Oh," she said, no surprise in her voice. Just a casual, airy "oh," like I'd caught her playing some dumb meme video. "That's from the Bachelorette," she added, setting the snacks on the nightstand. It was this whole dumb prank they pulled. I didn't say anything. Couldn't. My throat felt tight. She walked over, took the phone from my hand without hesitation, and tapped the screen to close the chat. "Seriously," she said, sitting down on the bed, like she was about to give a TED talk on how not to overreact. "It was a joke. They were messing with the groom. That guy's someone from the marketing team, Evan or Ethan, I think. They made us stage all these weird photos like it was a fake wedding sabotage. I didn't even want to do it." She smiled like it was funny. I wasn't laughing. I asked, flat out, "Why were you sitting on his lap?" She shrugged. "Because everyone else was doing it. You know how these events go. It was just part of the whole role-play thing. Honestly, I didn't even think it was going to get posted." My eyes stayed on her face. I was looking for something. Some flicker of guilt, some hesitation, even a flash of regret. But I got none of that. What I saw was control. Calm. Like this explanation had already been loaded into the chamber, just waiting for me to trigger the scene. "Jake," she said, her tone dropping into that lower register she used when I was being dramatic. "You're making this a bigger deal than it is. It was harmless. We were all drinking a little, it was late, and it wasn't serious." "You said it was a prank," I replied. "But that caption, 'The future bride finally makes the right choice,' that doesn't sound like a prank." She laughed softly, shaking her head. "You don't get it. It's an inside joke. Like they were teasing Lisa. She's the bride. They kept pretending I was the runaway who stole her spotlight. It was stupid. The whole night was just dumb stuff like that." Her expression didn't waver. No panic. No defensiveness. Just smooth, polished confidence. The silence between us stretched. I could hear the low hum of the ceiling fan and the distant sound of traffic outside. Everything in the room felt suddenly unfamiliar. The walls, the bed, her. I said nothing. I just nodded slowly and walked to the other side of the room to plug in my phone. She turned on the TV like nothing had happened. Like we just discussed a mild inconvenience. Not a photo that made my stomach feel like it had dropped into a void. But that's the thing that gets to you. Not the moment itself. Not the explanation. It's the certainty, the way she didn't flinch. As if the photo wasn't a problem. As if I was the problem for seeing it the way I did. For the rest of the night, I barely said a word. I brushed my teeth in silence, climbed into bed, and stared at the ceiling while she scrolled through Instagram beside me, unfazed. I don't know what I expected. Maybe a crack in the mask, a stumble in her voice, a glance that said, "You caught me." Instead, I got nothing. And that scared me more than if she had confessed to anything. Because there's something about a lie delivered with absolute calm. It makes you question whether you even have the right to be hurt. The next morning, she acted like everything was fine. Made coffee, packed her gym bag, even kissed me on the cheek before leaving. Like we weren't living in a different reality now. Like we weren't both pretending that something hadn't shifted. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time after she left, just staring at the mug she'd used. Her lipstick mark was faint but still there. A small, bright imprint. Part of me wanted to believe everything she said was true. That I just misunderstood a joke. That I was overreacting. But another part of me, the part I'd trained for years to ignore, was already doing the math. Remembering things I'd chosen not to look at too closely. That trip to Denver last spring. The new clothes she bought, because work demanded a more polished look. The nights she came home late but never looked tired. All of it came back not like a memory, but like static building in the background. Still, I didn't say anything. Not yet. After that night, I stopped being able to unsee things. It wasn't like I suddenly turned into some kind of private investigator, tracking her every move or checking her phone the second she turned her back. I didn't need to. Once doubt takes root, it doesn't just grow, it rewrites the past. It changes what you thought you knew. And that's exactly what happened. I started remembering things, not new events, just old ones I'd explained away at the time. Moments that seemed off, but not enough to say anything. I'd always been the kind of person who gave benefit of the doubt, especially to the people I loved. But after that photo, the doubt stopped feeling like insecurity and started feeling like insight. Like a puzzle I'd been ignoring had already been solved. I just hadn't looked closely enough. Take her phone, for example. Christina used to be pretty laid back about it. Left it on the kitchen counter. Didn't flinch when it buzzed during dinner. But in the last few months, she kept it on her always. Bathroom, shower, even quick trips to the mailbox. And she never left it face up anymore. One morning, I walked into the room while she was getting dressed. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, and she lunged for it like it was about to self-destruct. She laughed it off. Said she was waiting for a message from her boss about a branding emergency, whatever that meant. Back then, I told myself it was just work stress. She'd recently switched to a new role, helping lead a team for this lifestyle branding firm. A lot of pressure, late hours, high-profile clients, the usual excuses, and I believed them, or at least I wanted to. But now, every past detail felt like a breadcrumb. Not proof on its own, but evidence when strung together. A few months ago, she canceled a dinner with my parents. Said she had a last-minute Zoom call with a potential client in London. Even apologized for not being able to reschedule. I remember sitting at that dinner with my mom asking why Christina hadn't come, and I told her she was slammed with work. That was the word she used. Slammed. But here's what I didn't mention at the time. When I got home that night, she wasn't on a call. She was in sweatpants watching Netflix, earbuds in. Said the meeting had been postponed last minute. Now that I think about it, she never rescheduled that call. Then there was the trip. In late April, she told me she was flying to Colorado to visit her sister, Julia. Said they needed some quality girl time. Just the two of them. No husbands, no phones, no pressure. I thought it was a little sudden, but she framed it as a birthday thing, even though Julia's birthday was in March. Still, I didn't question it. I helped her pack, drove her to the airport, gave her a hug at the gate and told her to have fun. That weekend, she barely texted. When I called in the evening, it went to voicemail twice. The one time she picked up, She said they were doing a spa night and asked if we could talk later. Her voice sounded light, relaxed, like everything was fine. But a couple weeks after she came back, I ran into one of our mutual friends, Amy. She used to work with Christina back when she was still in PR, and the two had stayed in touch. We were both at a birthday dinner for another friend, and she asked how Christina's trip to Colorado went. I said it was good, that she and Julia got to catch up. Amy raised an eyebrow. Really? That's weird. I thought Julia was in Italy that week. I must have looked confused because she added, she posted a bunch of stories from Rome. I remember because I was jealous. I love that city. At the time, I brushed it off. I even joked that maybe Christina went to Colorado to enjoy Julia's empty house. But even as I said it, something didn't sit right. Why lie about something so specific? Why make it a sisters-only trip, then ask me not to call after 8 p.m.? So I wouldn't interrupt their wine nights? That wasn't stress. That wasn't work. That was something else. And then there was the change in her style. Now, let me be clear. I've never tried to control how Christina dressed. She's always been stylish, effortless in that way I admired. But she used to be more low-key. Hoodies, sneakers, jeans on most days. Her workwear was clean and professional, but not flashy. Then, around February, things started shifting. Slowly at first. Heels came out more often. Dresses got shorter. Her go-to outfits started to look like she was headed to a rooftop bar. Not the office. Bright lipstick, perfectly styled hair, perfume that lingered even after she left the room. I asked her about it once. I was half joking. You have a date or something? She laughed. No, just want to feel good. Don't you like it? I said yes, and I meant it. But a part of me wondered why she was suddenly trying to feel good on weekdays. Who she was dressing for. That part of me, the one that noticed things but stayed quiet, started to get louder. The final straw wasn't even a big moment. It was a Tuesday evening. She was in the shower. I walked past the bathroom and heard her phone buzz from inside the laundry basket where she tucked it beneath a towel. 2 buzzes. Then 3. Then silence. I stood there for maybe 10 seconds. Not long, but long enough to realize I didn't trust her. I wasn't angry yet. I wasn't even heartbroken. I was just tired. Tired of explaining away things that didn't add up. Tired of giving trust that felt like it was being spent behind my back. That night, I lay awake next to her, staring at the ceiling while she slept. The sound of her breathing used to calm me. Now it felt like noise from another room. I didn't have proof. Not then. Just instincts. Observations. A series of inconsistencies I could no longer explain with love or logic. But the hardest part? I still wanted to be wrong. A couple days later, I got a text from my friend Mason. He works in HR at Christina's company, different department, but same building. We grab lunch sometimes, nothing dramatic. His message was short. Hey man, heads up, that bachelorette party thing you mentioned might not have been just a joke. Call me. I stared at the screen for a long time before calling. When he picked up, his voice was hesitant, like he didn't want to be the one to tell me whatever it was he'd learned. But he did. Apparently, one of the interns had posted a video on a private Instagram story from that night. Mason had seen it, said it was circulating among a few people before it got deleted. The clip? Christina, on the same guy's lap, arms around his neck, kissing him. Not joking, not pretending, just kissing. Someone off camera laughed and said, Jake would lose his mind if he saw this. I didn't see the video yet. Mason didn't have it. But he knew someone who did, someone who owed him a favor. He said he'd get it to me. And in that moment I knew. The game was over. Whatever hope I'd been clinging to, that I was overthinking, imagining, making mountains out of harmless moments, it shattered. Not in a dramatic way. Not with yelling or breaking something. Just quiet collapse. Because deep down I'd already known. Mason came through 2 days later. He sent me the video around midnight. I was still awake, sitting on the living room couch with the lights off, nursing a glass of whatever was left in the cabinet. My phone buzzed once. One message. A screen recording with no caption. I didn't open it right away. I stared at the little thumbnail, the frozen image of Christina mid-laugh, framed in soft party lighting. Balloons in the background. A red banner stretched across the wall that said, "Final fling before the ring." Her hair was curled like she was going to a photo shoot. That same dress from the still photo I'd seen days earlier. I waited until the room was completely quiet. Then I tapped play. No buffering. No delay. Just the sound of music, laughter, and Christina's voice. Unmistakable even through low-quality audio. She was seated sideways on the guy's lap. His hands on her thighs, hers wrapped casually around his neck. The way her fingers played with the hair at the nape of his neck made my stomach tighten. She leaned in and kissed him. Not a peck. Not a joke. A slow, confident kiss. Like they'd done it before. Like they were comfortable. Someone off-screen let out a loud, exaggerated gasp and said, "Oh, that's it. Jake would die if he saw this." More laughter. Christina looked up at the camera, stuck out her tongue playfully, and said, "Shoo, this is for the bride. Remember? It's tradition. Tradition." The video ended there. 15 seconds total. I sat frozen, staring at the black screen as the replay button pulsed faintly. My thumb hovered over it for a few seconds before I hit play again. And again. And again. Each time it hurt less. Not because it stung any less, but because a part of me was already going numb. I wasn't angry. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't even betrayed in that moment. I was just cold, watching my marriage fold itself into something I no longer recognized, one frame at a time. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even move from the couch. At one point, I just opened the blinds and watched the sun come up through the window, casting soft gold across the living room floor like the start of any other day. But it wasn't any other day. It was the day I stopped needing explanations. Christina came home that evening. She walked in like she always did. Keys jangling, phone in one hand, takeout in the other. Her eyes scanned the room like a switchboard operator checking for signals. I was sitting on the couch again. Same spot as the night before, same silence. She smiled when she saw me. "Hey, I brought Thai. Your favorite." The place on 3rd finally reopened. I didn't respond, just nodded slightly. She paused, waiting for more, but I offered nothing. She didn't ask what was wrong. Didn't look worried. She was already too good at this, at living two lives, at hiding one version of herself behind the other like nested dolls. I watched her set the food on the counter, heard the rustle of plastic bags, the faint tapping of her nails on her phone as she checked her notifications. I wondered who she was texting, if it was him, if he had a name that was saved under someone else's contact just in case. When she finally turned toward me, she tilted her head and said, "You okay?" I said yeah. She smiled again, walked upstairs. That was it. I didn't bring up the video. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask questions I already knew the answers to. The part of me that wanted explanations had died sometime between the 2nd and 3rd replay. It wasn't about what she'd say anymore. It was about what I already knew. I spent the next few days pretending. I got up at the usual time, showered, went to work, answered emails, came home, ate dinner across from her, said goodnight, slept beside her. I think if you asked her, she'd say things were back to normal. It was incredible, really, how much you could hide behind routine. How easy it was to go through the motions once the heart had exited the conversation. She didn't suspect anything, or if she did, she was too confident to care. Her phone still never left her side. Her weekend plans always seemed busy. She mentioned another upcoming work dinner. Some new client kickoff. Told me I didn't need to come. Said it would be boring. Just branding people talking about logos and color palettes. I nodded. Inside, I was planning my exit. You learn a lot about a person by watching how they behave when they think you're clueless. Christina never flinched, never hesitated. She moved through the house like someone playing the role of a loving wife with no script, just instinct. I'd catch her humming while folding laundry, scrolling Instagram like nothing had changed. Her smile in the morning, identical to the one she gave the man in the video. Maybe that's what broke me the most. The realization that I wasn't the only one she smiled like that for. That what I thought was uniquely ours was just performance. I thought about confronting her. About showing her the video, watching her expression twist into panic, denial, maybe even anger. But what would that solve? She'd lie, spin it, blame alcohol, peer pressure, the prank narrative again. Or worse, she'd admit it. And I'd be stuck hearing some carefully worded version of remorse that felt like a speech written in advance. I didn't want her script anymore, so instead I chose silence. The night before I left, I sat on the balcony and watched her through the sliding glass door. She was in the kitchen, dancing a little to music I couldn't hear, pouring wine into a glass, texting in between sips. I wondered what she would think when she woke up the next morning and found my side of the bed empty. If she'd be confused, if she'd panic, if she'd even care. I already knew she'd reach for her phone. That thought, more than anything, told me I was doing the right thing. I waited until she was asleep. It was just after 2 a.m. Her breathing had evened out. I'd been lying beside her, fully dressed, pretending to doze. The second I was sure she was out, I slid out of bed quietly and walked into the closet. Everything had been packed earlier in the evening. Just a carry-on suitcase, a duffel bag, and a manila envelope. Inside the envelope was my wedding ring. No note, no dramatic message, just the ring. I walked through the quiet house, down the stairs, opened the front door, and stepped out into the cool night air. Felt colder than I expected. I didn't look back. I drove to Marcus's place, a friend from college who lived across town. We talked briefly earlier that week. I didn't tell him everything, just enough for him to understand I needed a couch for a few nights and a place to be invisible. He didn't ask questions. When I showed up, he handed me a blanket, pointed to the guest room, and said, "Stay as long as you need." I nodded. The next morning, I changed the locks at our house. I wasn't angry when I did it. I wasn't bitter. I just didn't want her walking into the same home like nothing had changed. Because something had. Me. She texted that afternoon. "Jake? Are you okay? Where are you? Please don't do this. Just call me. We need to talk. I'm seriously freaking out. This isn't funny." Then came the shift. "You're being childish. If this is about the photo again, I told you it was a joke. You really need to grow up. This is emotional manipulation. You know that, right?" I didn't respond. Not to that. Not to the voice messages. Not to the missed calls. I'd seen what I needed to see. I'd heard what I needed to hear. And I knew now that her version of love came with footnotes, caveats, and exits. The video wasn't the betrayal. The lie was the way she looked me in the eyes, laughed, and handed me a polished story like it meant nothing. That was the part one couldn't come back from. It's strange how final a moment can feel when there's no sound attached to it. No shouting, no slammed doors, no dramatic goodbye. Just silence. A man walking out the door without saying a word. That was how I left. And for the first time in months, maybe longer, I felt in control. I didn't feel vindicated. I wasn't fantasizing about revenge or some dramatic exposure that would turn her life upside down. I didn't want to catch her in a lie, or hear her fumble through excuses, or beg for forgiveness she didn't mean. I didn't even want her to cry. I just wanted out. That's it. Out of the performance. Out of the carefully choreographed life we'd been pretending to live. Out of the loop I kept playing in my head. The one where I doubted myself, replayed her explanations, tried to force myself into believing again. Out of her reach. I turned off my phone that morning. Not muted. Not do not disturb. A total blackout. I planned it. Charged it fully the night before so I could read the time and nothing else. No texts. No calls. No voicemail pings with that passive-aggressive tone of hers when she was trying to sound composed but was seconds from cracking. She was good at sounding like the victim. I wasn't going to give her that stage. The new locks were a precaution, sure, but also a message. Not to punish her, but to make it real. She couldn't walk back into the house and pretend we were okay. Couldn't light a candle and play some playlist that reminded her of our early years. Couldn't make herself a drink in the kitchen while rehearsing her apology in the mirror. Not this time. She was out. The first few days were quiet, peaceful almost. I stayed at Marcus's place, worked remotely, avoided mutual friends, ignored social media. I wasn't hiding, just disengaging. I wanted the space to think without being pulled back into her orbit. Marcus didn't press me for details. That's the thing I respected about him most. He knew when to speak and when to just be in the room. One night, after we ate dinner in silence, he asked me, "You sure you don't want to just talk to her once? Just to end it clean?" I shook my head. "There's no clean," I said. "She'll just try to steer the story again." He didn't argue, just nodded and poured us both another drink. By day 4, she'd figured out I'd changed the locks. That's when the real barrage started, not just calls or texts, but messages through other people. She messaged my sister, said she was concerned, that I had disappeared, and that she was worried I might be spiraling. Classic deflection. Make it seem like she was the steady one, the concerned wife trying to hold things together while I unraveled. I warned my family ahead of time, told them not to engage. "She's not worried," I told my sister. "She's just trying to pull the narrative back into her hands." To her credit, my sister didn't fall for it. She forwarded me the texts but didn't respond to Christina directly. One of them read, "He won't answer. I just want to talk. This isn't healthy for either of us." The irony. As if her lies had been healthy. As if gaslighting me into silence was something I should have been grateful for. She wasn't looking for closure. She was looking for control. After a week of silence, her tone shifted again. She started posting things. Carefully curated images on Instagram. Her wine glass with a flickering candle in the background. An empty plate across from her. The caption, "Still saving your seat." Subtle. Performative. Calculated. Not aimed at the world, aimed at me. I didn't take the bait. She posted a throwback of us at a lake, smiling in the sun, her arm wrapped around mine. The caption read, "Some things are worth fighting for." The comments were full of supportive friends who didn't know anything. Heart emojis. "You two are so strong" messages. One person said, "Don't let one fight define you." She never corrected them. Let the world believe I'd overreacted, that I'd walked away for no reason. She was rebuilding the story one pixel at a time. She didn't want reconciliation. She wanted reputation maintenance. The only message I sent was short. Just one line. "How's your right choice doing?" No response. Not then, at least. Not in words. I started sleeping better. Not great, but better. The anxiety that used to live in my chest like a second heartbeat had quieted. I no longer jumped when her name lit up my phone, because it didn't anymore. I wasn't waiting for her next excuse, her next redirection, her next round of guilt-tripping disguised as concern. I stopped playing the game. And once you step off the stage, the performance loses power. She didn't know what to do with that. One evening, Marcus and I sat on the back porch watching the sky dim. He handed me a beer and said, "You look lighter." I didn't answer right away. Eventually I said, "I think I stopped carrying her lies." He nodded slowly. "That'll do it." A week later, she tried one last move. She had a mutual friend, Brittany, call me. Now, Brittany and I weren't close. She and Christina used to work together, and we'd only interacted at a few social things. But suddenly, she was calling me like we were old friends. I let it go to voicemail. Her message, "Hey Jake, it's Brittany. Listen, I know things are weird right now, and I'm not trying to get in the middle of anything. But I saw Christina the other night and she's not doing well. She really loves you, Jake. I think she made a mistake, but she's trying to fix it. Maybe just hear her out?" I deleted the message. Brittany wasn't reaching out on her own. Christina had sent her. Probably word for word. It was another attempt to reframe, to shift blame onto mistakes. Not choices. But there's a difference between a misstep and betrayal. She hadn't tripped. She'd walked. You want to know the strangest part? It wasn't even the cheating that hurt the most. It was the clarity I gained once the fog cleared, realizing that for months, maybe longer, I'd been loving someone who wasn't really there anymore. I don't know when she left the relationship. I just know she never told me she was gone. And that silence, that slow vanishing, is its own kind of cruelty. I started looking for places out of town. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere new. Not to run. I wasn't running. I was rebuilding. Minneapolis came to mind. Not the city itself, but a suburb just north. I'd visited once with a friend years ago. Remembered the way the houses sat calmly among trees. The way people nodded at each other without needing to know your name. I found a rental listing. A small house. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms. Wood floors. A little fenced yard. I applied that same day. Got approved 2 days later. I signed the lease and booked a one-way flight. Before I left, I visited the house one last time. It was empty. She was gone. Probably staying with a friend, or maybe the man from the video. I didn't care. The space felt hollow, not in a sad way. In a relieved way, like stale air finally being let out. I walked through each room slowly. The living room where we used to curl up on rainy days. The kitchen where she used to hum songs while making coffee. Our bedroom, now stripped of warmth, just a shell. I didn't take much. Just a few things I actually cared about. Some photos from before everything changed. A few books. My grandfather's watch. I left the rest. Let her figure out what still belonged to her. As I stood in the doorway, keys in my hand, I thought about how endings are rarely fireworks. Sometimes they're just a man locking a door for the last time and walking towards something better. I slid the keys into the mailbox. Walked to the curb. Called a ride to the airport. Didn't look back. The first message came before the plane even touched down in Minneapolis. My phone had been off for the entire flight. I didn't want to spend 2.5 hours in the air listening to it buzz in my pocket like a swarm of flies. But as soon as I turned it back on, there it was. A wall of text messages waiting to hit me all at once. Christina's name filled the screen. The first one read, "I don't know where you are, but this is not okay, Jake." That was the tone I remembered most. Not panic, not heartbreak. Control. She didn't ask if I was safe. Didn't ask why I'd left. She went straight to blame. Like I was the one who had crossed a line. The second message. "You can't just disappear and shut me out like this. It's immature and cruel." Then another, a few hours later. "If you want to break up, at least have the decency to tell me. You owe me that much." And that was the word that stuck with me. Oh, like I still owed her something after everything. Like her lies didn't already void every debt we ever had. For days, the tone of her messages shifted back and forth like a broken compass. 1 hour it was guilt-tripping. The next, nostalgia. She sent me a voice memo whispering, "Remember our first apartment?" and laughing at nothing. Then followed it with a video from a trip we took to Maine. A quiet moment we'd shared in a cabin near a lake years ago. She captioned it, "We were so good before things got complicated. Not sorry. Not I made a mistake. Just a vague suggestion that life got complicated." Like the betrayal had been a natural side effect of stress and not a choice she made over and over again. She wanted me to remember the good. But she never acknowledged the truth. Not once. Not directly. A few days after I moved into the new place, a bottle of wine arrived on my doorstep with no note, just her handwriting on the label. "In case you ever want to talk." It was the same wine we drank the night we got engaged. I left it unopened on the kitchen counter. Every time I looked at it, it reminded me of the pattern. Avoid the hard conversation, then use sentimentality as bait. Her apologies were always aesthetic. Candlelit, carefully packaged, and emotionally hollow. She didn't want to fix what she broke. She wanted to fix how she looked for breaking it. Then came the dinner photos. She posted one on Instagram. Dim lighting, a single place setting, red wine, and a plate of pasta. The caption read, "Still cooking for 2. Comments flooded in. "Hang in there, girl. You two are soulmates. He'll come around. Some things are worth the wait." Again, she said nothing, just liked every comment. She was building her version of the story in plain sight, the abandoned wife narrative, the woman left in the dark after giving her all. Except I hadn't left without reason. She just didn't want to admit why. The only time I replied was after she sent a picture of the front porch light at our old house. Still on. The caption said, "I'll keep it lit." I stared at it for a long time before finally typing a single message. "How's your right choice doing?" She didn't answer. Didn't post anything for a while after that either. I imagined her sitting on the couch, phone in hand, reading the message over and over, wondering how I found out. If the video had resurfaced. If someone from work had said something. She couldn't ask, because asking would mean admitting, and that wasn't part of her game. A week later, she tried a different angle. She called my mom. Not even a subtle check-in. Full-on performance. My mom called me that night, confused. She said she was worried, she told me. Said you hadn't answered her in days, that you might be depressed. Is everything okay? I felt the familiar wave of heat rise in my chest. The kind that comes when someone manipulates people you love. She's not worried, I said. She's embarrassed. I explained the situation in broad strokes. No video, no specifics. Just enough to clarify why Christina didn't have access to me anymore. My mom was quiet for a long time before she finally said, "I always wondered about her. That surprised me. She seemed curated," she added. Like she was always acting for someone else. That's the thing. Most people don't see it until it breaks. And then, suddenly, everything that once felt off makes perfect sense. Christina didn't stop. She sent an email next. The subject line said, "Can we just talk without the performance?" But the body was full of it. She talked about how much she missed my laugh, how our dog, whom she'd left with a friend, still sat by the door waiting for me, how the house felt cold without me. Still no mention of what actually happened. Still no "I'm sorry." Still no name for what she did. Just soft-edged metaphors. Eventually, she started referencing therapy, told me she'd started going. Sent me a picture of her journal with some quote about growth. "Trying to get better," she wrote. "For you. For us." But even her efforts felt performative. I could picture her choosing the best handwriting, editing the journal page for lighting, making sure the quote was centered. It wasn't about healing. It was about display. A brand campaign for redemption. She sent one more message that stuck with me. It came at 2:17 a.m. during what I assume was one of her lower moments. "I didn't think you'd actually leave." No punctuation. No story. Just that. Felt honest. For the first time, I imagined her sitting alone in that house, surrounded by the life we built, realizing that I wasn't waiting around anymore. That the orbit she thought she controlled had collapsed. She thought I'd fight. She thought I'd chase. She thought I'd need her enough to come back, even after the lies. And the truth? I might have. If she'd said the right thing. If she'd looked me in the eye and owned it. If she'd broken even a little. But she didn't. She pivoted. She branded. She sold the illusion. And I walked away. The last message she ever sent, the one I never replied to, was a photo. A small cafe. 2 mugs on a table. A half-eaten croissant. Her phone sitting alone next to a napkin with a smiley face drawn on it. The caption. "Still waiting." There was something desperate in it. Not enough to be sympathetic. Just enough to be sad. I imagined her checking her phone every 10 minutes after that. Watching for the seen notification. Wondering if I'd open it. I did. But not for her. For me. To see if I still felt anything. And I didn't. Not hate. Not pity. Not even nostalgia. Just space. When I told Marcus about the last message, he asked, "What would you say to her, if you had to?" I thought about it for a long time. Then I said, I'd ask why she never fought for the truth. Why she fought so hard to stay the hero instead of just being honest. He nodded and didn't say anything else. That was enough. The wine bottle stayed on my counter for a while, unopened. Then, one night, I took it out to the curb with the trash. I didn't throw it. I set it down gently, not out of care, just closure. A month passed before I heard her name again. This time, from someone at her company. The video had leaked. Not just within her private circle, publicly. A screen recording, same kiss, same laugh, same voice in the background mocking me. It hit the wrong inbox, and from there it spiraled. HR got involved. She was placed on leave pending review. I didn't celebrate. I didn't share it. But I heard that the man, her right choice, had vanished. Quit. Ghosted everyone. Word was, she told him we were separated, that I was just baggage. But when the truth came out, he bailed. Left her with nothing but questions and a ruined image. I wasn't angry. I just saw it for what it was. She wasn't special to him either. Just another lie dressed up as something meaningful. I never replied to her after that. I moved into a quiet suburb near Minneapolis. Rented a small house, got a dog, picked up running again. I saw a therapist, rebuilt my mind like a house stripped to studs. She stopped writing eventually. I think she finally realized I wasn't hiding. I was healing. A friend once sent me a photo of her at a cafe, alone, staring at her phone, still dressed up, still waiting. But I felt nothing. Not hate, not loss, just distance. That version of my life, the one built on doubt and disguise, was over. It no longer belonged to me. She was still performing, still chasing an ending. But I had already walked out of the theater, and the lights had gone up.